Kids, good evening. Today I'm going to talk about schizoaffective bipolar disorder, and I'm going to update this for October 25th, 2014. I've been diagnosed with this disease a long time ago. I do occasional updates when they're necessary, and I thought, actually a few weeks ago, but I ended up doing it today, it's necessary to update what's going on. As you know, as I've spoken about before, it's kind of a consuming disease, and it takes a lot of attention, it takes a lot of micromanaging just to keep yourself from doing something stupid like killing yourself or freaking out or whatever, or cutting, or a lot of people act out in a lot of different ways with schizoaffective disorder. I myself have been blessed to have captured the essence of my disease early and learned how to deal with it for the most part and make it as least disruptive as possible on my life. Now that's not always easy. In July I was given, actually in June I was given a new drug to take and try, and I ended up July 4th, Independence Day, in the hospital on the verge of death because I was getting poisoned by this new drug. So every time those things happen, it takes a little bit more out of you. It takes a little bit more out of you. And as long as I've been taking medications, and as long as I've been dealing with this thing, everything takes a little bit more out of you. So there's a little bit less to hold on to. And that's a hard thing to grasp, but it's important. Now, since that time, within the last month, I would say, my physical issues have now overwhelmed my mental issues as far as what tail wags the dog, so to speak. It used to be my mental issues wagging my physical issues, and now my physical issues have taken over as being the most challenging, the most uncomfortable, and the most consistently annoying and difficult than my mental issues. Now that's not easy to do because, let me give you an example. I have diabetes. My feet constantly hurt. They constantly feel like they're freezing. I constantly have to try to remember to move them so that the psoriasis doesn't become psoriatic arthritis and lock them into place, which it has a few times. Psoriasis has this tendency to grab onto your joints and lock them in place. My finger joints, all of them have psoriasis, and they like to get frozen shut. My eyeballs have psoriasis. They like to get frozen shut. My knees, everywhere you can imagine where there's a joint, my elbows, on my feet, everywhere has these patches of psoriasis, and with them comes this psoriasis arthritis. And it will literally try to lock your body in like a cast. And it's really painful if you don't constantly figure out how to move it. And you don't just do that during the daytime. You have to figure out how to move it in your sleep without disrupting your sleep. And it's not an easy task. Besides that, I have high blood pressure. I have all kinds of things wrong with me. Now, the high blood pressure for the last month and a half has been really getting on my nerves, and it's making my ears ring constantly. It's constant high blood pressure ear ringing, even though I'm on multiple high blood pressure medicines. Now, I've seen my doctor once about it, nothing's changed, so now I'm going to have to go back and see if I can redo what medicines I'm on, because obviously the ones I'm on I'm used to, and it's not working anymore. So that's an issue. And what else? I have these hallucinations. This is part of the mental illness. And recently, in the last several months, and these are not just myself, but they're actually in the whole house. So my roommate, who does not have this mental illness, also experiences this, but not to the extent I do. Not on the minute-to-minute, day-to-day basis. For example, I hear phones ringing, particularly my cell phone, but other phones ringing too, constantly. As sometimes it will ring for 45 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes straight without stopping. You have no idea how disruptive that is. You can't watch TV, you can't read anything because you're constantly checking your phone or looking around for a landline phone that doesn't exist, or listening out the window if it's your neighbor's phone, or you don't know. And it's maddening. It gets absolutely maddening. In addition, as if you look back in the history of my videos, you know I have paranormal experiences. My paranormal experiences have been going on and off very strongly for the last couple of months since I came off that last drug. And there's been a lot of active poltergeist activity in my house, with things being moved, things being thrown, things being banged, things being broken, with no explanation. And sometimes it's just creepy. I mean, sometimes it's not even banging or anything else, it's just like a towel moving on its own, or something really random or weird. So I know it's not me, I know it's not my cats, I know it's not my dogs, I certainly know it's not the turtles, it's not my roommate because he's not home, so who could it be? It could only be a ghost, or a poltergeist, whatever you want to call it. So having to deal with all these things has been quite a challenge. And you add on the physical aspect of your heart being, your blood pressure being higher, and your ears ringing, and your phones ringing, and shit flying around the house, and it's just like, it's maddening. It's difficult, and it's not something that I would wish on anyone. I look at the news and I see these people that have flipped out and done these horrible things, and I have to admit, sometimes I wonder, why can't I get to that point? But I know I never will, because that's just not me. I've learned to deal with this too well, but that's also a curse. It truly is a curse, because you sit here and you try to keep a lid on things, and it gets so difficult, and no one understands or appreciates all the effort put into keeping a lid on shit. They just assume that's the way it should be, and it's not. It's not at all. So, for example, I have been trying to grasp onto life in a more pleasant, low-key, relaxing experience. And so far, it's been working. And one thing I found that works kind of well for me, specifically, is reading. Particularly reading things that are serious and fun. And it seems to be an all-consuming soul, body, mind experience. Now, it's not like you get up and read a book. My reading is much different. When I read, I have to not only hear the phones ringing in the background and my ears buzzing from the high blood pressure, and the voices talking, and my animals carrying on, and my neighbors carrying on, and all this other stuff that's all going on behind the scenes. But I try to focus on reading, and then I realize that I get down halfway or three-quarters of the way through a page, and I missed half of it because I'm so busy tuning out everything else. So then I have to keep starting over. And the more I keep having to start over, the more I totally focus on what I'm reading. And it becomes all-encompassing. That doesn't mean it's effective, but it's all-encompassing. And it's a nice diversion, because when you do it 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 tries through the same page, suddenly You stop hearing the phone ring. Suddenly you don't worry about your ears ringing. Suddenly you tune out some of the distractions that are normal with schizophrenia, and you don't get the mood swings of the bipolar disorder. You just are focusing on this one thing, and occasionally you get a good laugh. And a good laugh at this stage of my life is worth everything. Absolutely everything. So that's what's been going on with me. I know, oh, the other thing is, my eyes, I wanted to put this in, my eyes are continually degenerating, and not so much from the diabetes, but from cataracts. And one thing I've noticed in the last 2 months is that I can look through sunlight and I can look through darkness, but I cannot see from sunlight into a shadow. I cannot see into a shadow with any kind of clarity at all. It just looks dark and there's no detail. Which, when you're in the backyard picking up dog shit, for example, can get quite disturbing, because if you can't see the dog shit, you'll step in it. And if your body's casting a shadow and you can't see into that shadow, you have to work around that whole situation. And I learned this the hard way. And that's strange. And the other thing I learned too is I'm very used to seeing ghosts and spirits and all that kind of stuff, the paranormal, floating around, walking around, talking around, doing everything all day long. But what I've noticed is those things that sit more quietly that I used to notice, I don't notice anymore until they move. And once they move, I can see them with great clarity, but if they're just standing still because of the cataracts, I can't see them. So then they can surprise me. And I hate being surprised. There's nothing worse than like jumping out, surprise, to me, because it just unnerves me. It's just one more thing that my brain has to deal with, as if all the noise and all the voices and everything else were not enough. So I'm learning how to cope with this and use it to my best advantage until I can get eye surgery. So all that being equal, I'm looking forward to my trip in January, and it's coming faster than I expected. And that's all that's going on with me. Otherwise, I'm very peaceful, I'm very happy, I'm living my life and doing what I have to do and staying out of trouble. And what else could you ask for? What else could you ask for with everything that I have going on with me? I feel blessed. So, namaste. If you have any questions, write them in. I'll be happy to answer them in the next video. Have a good one.